At 2 o'clock in the morning, the city is quiet, and the truth has nowhere left to hide. I was Serafina Cole, the cold, iron-disciplined CEO, 34 years old, navigating the brutal world of Zenith Corporation. My whole life was about control, about proving to the board, led by that old vulture, Franklin Buxton, that I was ruthless enough, that I deserved my chair. My tailored red dress was my armor, and my piercing blue eyes were locked on any weakness, especially those who worked beneath me. My father taught me one thing: trust no one. They're all waiting to steal what you have. So, I built walls higher than any skyscraper. 30 floors below, in the basement, was Ethan Davies, the janitor. 36, strong, with a kind face that looked perpetually tired. Everyone saw the grey uniform, but I noticed the way his hands moved, precise, thoughtful, deliberate. Because what no one at Zenith knew was that Ethan had once been an MIT-educated, top mechanical engineer, the kind NASA called. He had it all, but then his wife, Clara, got sick. Ovarian cancer. When she died, Ethan had nothing left but a promise to take care of the 5 little souls Clara had been fostering: Maya, Leo, Chloe, Sam, and Eliza, orphans who had nowhere else to go. So, Ethan Davies became a janitor, needing weekly cash to feed his new, makeshift family, burying his genius to keep them safe. But I was hunting. The board was demanding cost cuts, demanding layoffs, and I needed a scapegoat to prove my loyalty. 4 weeks, I'd noticed Ethan. I saw him in the server room, once, fixing a failing capacitor with startling confidence, instruments that cost more than his monthly salary tucked into his kit. IT took the credit. I noticed his backpack was always heavy when he left at 2:15 a.m., his expression guarded. If I could prove he was stealing or sabotaging, I'd have my sacrifice, and I'd secure my position. It was a cold, calculated decision to destroy his life to save mine. So, on a bitter January night, I ditched the red dress, pulled on dark jeans and a wool coat. I barely recognized the woman in the mirror, and I followed him. The city at 2 a.m. is a different world, you know? Streetlights, icy sidewalks, shadows. Ethan walked with purpose, leading me out of the financial district, past 42nd Street, into the old, abandoned industrial zone near the river. This was exactly the kind of place where things disappeared. I crouched behind a rusted dumpster as he pulled out a key, one he'd fashioned himself, and unlocked the heavy padlock on a decrepit warehouse door, the Riverside Storage Company. Warm, yellow light spilled out for just a moment before he slipped inside. My heart was hammering, but I waited. Then, I crept forward, my leather boot crunching on an icy patch of broken glass and mud. I pressed myself against the wall, took a breath, and gently pushed the door open, just wide enough to see inside. And I froze. I stopped breathing, I stopped thinking. My entire worldview shattered like ice under a sledgehammer. The warehouse wasn't a fencing operation or a criminal hideout. It was a home. A dozen salvaged heaters made a warm bubble in the center. Old carpets covered the concrete. Along one wall were 5 small cots, and on those cots, the 5 children, Maya, Leo, Chloe, Sam, and little Eliza, slept peacefully in donated blankets. And in the center of it all, Archie wasn't stealing. He was kneeling among broken computers, cracked laptops, ancient radios, the things people threw away, and he was fixing them. His soldering iron glowed orange, his movements steady, sure, applying the same MIT precision to a junk laptop as he once did to aerospace designs. I watched, unable to move, as one of the girls, maybe 9 years old, stirred. "Uncle Archie," she whispered, her voice full of joy. "You're back." He set down his tools and opened his arms. "I fixed Mrs. Jenkins' computer today," he told her softly, stroking her hair. "That means we have enough for new notebooks for everyone." Every suspicion, every calculated judgment I had made, crumbled into dust. This man was fixing broken things for children who had nothing. He was using his brilliant mind to create opportunity out of garbage, spending his 2 a.m. hours being the kind of person I had forgotten existed. Tears stung my eyes, tears I hadn't shed in decades. I knew I had to leave, but as I turned to step back, my boot came down on an empty aluminum can. Crunch. The sound was like a gunshot. Instantly, Ethan grabbed a flashlight and strode to the door, throwing it open. The beam caught me full in the face. He lowered the light, and his expression wasn't angry. It was colder, harder, completely disappointed. "You followed me," he stated, not asked. I couldn't speak. How could I explain that I'd suspected him of crimes? That I'd planned to use him as a sacrificial pawn? Why? He asked, his voice soft but edged with steel. Because I'm poor? Because I'm just a janitor? Or because you needed someone to blame? I thought you were stealing, I mumbled, my voice small and uncertain, nothing like the CEO's command. The board wants a scapegoat. And you thought I'd do just fine, he finished for me, shaking his head. Come inside. It's too cold to talk out here. I followed him in, feeling like a criminal being led to judgment. He told me the whole story, about Clara, about Amity, about the impossible promise he kept. He turned to me, his eyes blazing, not with hate, but with a profound, righteous intensity. You want to know what I think, Miss Cole? I think wealth and poverty don't measure a person's character. But the way you've always looked at me, it was someone at the top looking down at something she could use or discard as needed. And that's a poverty no amount of money can fix. My carefully constructed internal vault cracked open. He was right. About all of it. I stood up, bowed my head, and whispered, You're right. I'm sorry I disturbed you. I knew leaving wouldn't erase what I'd seen. Something fundamental had shifted, and there was no going back to the comfortable numbness of my corner office. The real test came exactly 1 week later. We were in an emergency board meeting when the building's climate control system and internal network crashed simultaneously. It was January. The cold was dangerous. Marcus Thorne, our head of technical operations, a snide, slick man I never trusted, and his team poked at it for 2 hours and failed completely. Franklin Buxton was purple with rage. If we can't maintain basic infrastructure, we need new leadership. I felt the familiar panic, the instinct to look for a scapegoat. But this time, I saw a man kneeling among broken machines at 2 a.m., fixing them for children who had no one. This time, I made a different choice. I know someone who can fix it, I said quietly. 20 minutes later, Ethan Davies stood in the server room, still in his janitor's uniform, surveying the chaos. Marcus Thorne stood behind him, radiating skepticism and fury. This is absurd, Lissa. You're trusting a janitor with our entire system. I didn't answer. I just watched. Ethan pulled out his precision instruments, tracing wires with absolute confidence. In 5 minutes, he found the issue, a single corroded microchip in the climate control motherboard. Hardware. Oliver's team was looking at software. Ethan fixed it in exactly 18 minutes. The heat kicked on, the network lights blinked green. Where did you learn to do this? I asked softly. MIT class of 2007, he replied, without looking up. Mechanical engineering. I designed climate control units for hospital operating rooms. But I'm sure Marcus's credentials are much more impressive. Marcus's face went white, then mottled purple. He'd been beaten in front of the board by the cleaning staff. And I knew, right then, that the battle was far from over. If he couldn't compete with Ethan's skills, he'd destroy his reputation instead. The trap was already being set. 2 days later, Marcus Thorne made his move. He called an emergency meeting with me and the board, presenting what he claimed was proof of sabotage. I've reviewed the security footage, he announced, pulling up edited video clips on the conference room screen. Ethan entering secure areas, his hands moving near critical systems. Franklin Buxton leaned forward, vindicated. I told you, Serafina. This man is a saboteur. My stomach twisted, but my gut, the one that had learned to trust Ethan and distrust Marcus, screamed at me. I'd spent years reading people. My instincts were finally working. I'd like to review the full security footage, I said calmly. Everything from the past month. Tonight, with an external security consultant. Marcus's confident expression flickered. That's unnecessary. I've compiled the relevant. I insist, I cut him off flatly. Meeting adjourned. That night, with Reginald Hayes, an external security expert, sitting beside me, I reviewed 12 hours of unedited footage. What we found made my blood run cold. The clips Marcus showed were real, but they were carefully edited to remove all context. At 11:30 p.m., Ethan had entered the server room immediately after an alarm went off, an alarm triggered by Marcus himself, who had deliberately disconnected a cooling unit 10 minutes earlier. Marcus wasn't just framing Ethan, he was actively creating problems to make himself look good when he fixed them. But it was worse. We found Marcus forwarding confidential financial data to his personal email, corporate espionage. The sabotage of the janitor was just a distraction, a way to create chaos while he stole from a company. The ice-cold fury I felt was righteous. I called an emergency board meeting for 8 a.m. I didn't tell Marcus what I knew. I wanted to see his face. The conference room was packed. Marcus sat near the front, wearing his expensive suit and that condescending smirk. I set up my laptop and turned to face them all. Last meeting, Marcus Thorne presented evidence suggesting Archibald Flynn has been sabotaging our systems. I've reviewed the complete security footage. Here's what actually happened. I played the unedited clips, narrating each one with cold precision. The board watched, stunned, as Marcus systematically created problems and framed Ethan. Then I showed the evidence of data theft, spreadsheets full of proprietary financial information forwarded to Marcus's personal email, prepared for sale. Marcus's face drained of all color. This is ridiculous. I'll sue. You'll be escorted from the building by security, I said quietly. We are filing criminal charges for corporate espionage and fraud. Pray your lawyer is better at his job than you were at yours. 2 security officers appeared and led Marcus away, his shoes clicking on the marble floor. I felt no triumph, just a deep, weary determination to finally do something right. That evening, I found Ethan at the warehouse. He was teaching 5-year-old Eliza how to use a computer mouse, guiding her tiny hand with infinite patience. I knocked softly. When he came to the door, I found myself unable to speak. All my prepared words disappeared. May I come in? I need to say something to you. And to them. He nodded. I entered the warm space, and in front of everyone, I did something I'd done perhaps twice in my adult life. I bowed my head.